Okay, hello and welcome. This is Abyss, and I'm going to be commentating in place of Simon because Simon is currently unable to. However, hopefully we still have some fun. So this is the 2022 uh, Quarter 3 Beginner Tech Tournament Finals, and we're going to have Mazks against Vogopolis. And this is going to be game one coming up shortly. I'm happy to be commentating these beginner tournaments. Um, I think they've done a lot of good for the game. Just get some competition in early, and I think it really pushes players because when you're encouraged to compete, it does wonders for your skill in those early developing days. So uh, they have joined the game, so now we're just waiting for the first move. Anyway, in terms of rating 1577, 1522, not that Playtech rating means very much, but at least we can see they're approximately matched. So should be in for a good one. Okay, opposite corners and d3, e3, 4 looks pretty standard. e6 is an interesting move. d4 cap. Okay, so we can see white appears to be. I don't know. D4 might have been trying to hedge his bets towards the horizontal threat, but the cap on C4 prevents that quite well. Yeah, when this black cap takes on D4, it's going to be pretty good. It's sort of hard for white to take away that move too. Like, I guess the D5 cap could move down, but that looks a bit questionable. Although in some lines it might actually lead to some weird tinui, like moving over on covering D4 and then covering E4 with your cap. But we're a long way away from that. So far the players haven't taken any time. F2, okay, pretty natural. Just making attack threat. So I assume now we're going to see the black cap cover on D4. Yep. Let's see. Will white take on E5? I guess is the question. If white doesn't take on E5, they could get cut off in some variation from E5 minus. And black could have suddenly quite a good east-west threat. Although black has already captured a white stone, so with the capstone, so e5 minus isn't quite as good as if you had a lone capstone. That would be pretty effective. Here you do have to worry about if white has time to wall. White is thinking in any case. Opts for f5, okay. Kind of throwing pieces into the north-south. It's probably not a bad idea. So d6 is tack, f6 is tack for white on the next move. In some cases, you could look at f3, f6. Well, probably f6, f3 after black blocks in some way. And yeah, black is gonna have to respond to this because have no way of making an attack threat of their own. Now the black cap capturing at an e4 is also pretty potent in some case. If he wants to keep fighting, like do a vertical versus vertical battle. I would say black has the better capstone position currently. You have to imagine if the black capstone takes an e4, I mean, white is probably going to take the d4 square, but doesn't actually seem to be that important of a square yet. In order to make d4 relevant, white needs another move on either c3 or d2, and white also needs another move on d6. So that's quite a few tempi. From black, maybe I go d2 and just sort of prepare to go take an e4. Black opts for this sort of mysterious f3 though. I suppose maybe trying to bolster the horizontal. Maybe it's mostly defensive, but I don't think f3 was that important of a stone, so I don't exactly get it, to be quite honest. We'll have to see how black tries to make this work. Also, how black responds to what is probably going to be attack threat from white, since I don't know how you don't play d6 or f6 or d5 right, all of which are attack. Okay, so it's d6. Yeah, I feel like e5 down doesn't really work anymore, so I think you just need to, well, either play that or take with d4 cap. Taking with the cap was definitely safer. Actually, now this version might be worse because now the white capstone can attack the e4 square right away. I wonder if the white capstone comes right, if the black capstone will cover their own piece to defend e4. The white plays f4, which is a move. I'm not sure what his plan is after d2. I guess he's just going to take on e5 with the capstone in this case. White plays f6, or sorry, black plays f6. They're really just trying to pack those right two columns as much as possible, right? I assume this is just preventing white from taking f6, which I understand. Trying to block up the works here. Now, one important thing to note is this beginner tournament doesn't have Comey, which Well, I could go back and forth on whether I like that or not. I think at a game of this importance, I would kind of prefer it to have Comey, but I think for practical purposes, it probably doesn't matter very much. Most of these, most games really end with kind of crushing victories or just roads until you reach a very high level. Even like tech championship games that are going to come up in a couple months will probably have the same characteristics. When I say a very high level, it usually means, some subset of human games and a lot of bot games. So for that reason, not having the Comey is probably okay, but it does make you feel kind of sad when you're black, that's all. It's more about the motivation. Yeah, Sim said that all but a couple of games this tournament ended with someone missing a road and the others were tenues. Yeah, so put yourself in a position to make a road and good things will happen to you. That's true for most of tech. So, uh we've got D2 as our surprising move. After that, think just kind of going east-west. Oh, I'm behind C4 and D1. Okay. I forgot for a moment you're not looking at my screen, so I have to keep to the pace of the actual game. So, okay. Black's making their own attack threat. Now, the capstone, oh, this is bold. I was gonna say the capstone coming over to E5 also blocks the attack threat, but let's see. Black takes back immediately, not using a lot of time here. I think pretty soon we're going to reach some pretty important positions, so it might be good to think a moment. However, admittedly, I'm pretty strongly biased in favor of the use your time category, so I'm not going to judge anyone else for that. This is kind of problematic because as white, you want to fill D4, but it doesn't really work. Black can just come back, cover on D4, or can even cover on E3 with the big capstone. I mean, if white has to wall D4, that's quite sad. White puts a flat there, probably opting that it's just too sad to not do it. Now, the question is, when you take do you take D4 or E3? And also, do you leave the weakness behind on E4? Because you don't actually have to. Like, you could move the entire stack and avoid allowing yourself to be susceptible to some sort of wall counterattack. So black chooses to leave the piece behind on E4. Now, if you're white, I think you must take on E5 with the capstone. Otherwise, you seem dangerously close to death. Okay, so that's good. So white is targeting e4 directly here. Okay, it takes. So white's going to take on e4. Now, unfortunately, the attack doesn't stop there because after white takes on d4, then d5 comes. And all of a sudden, the f6 and the e6 pieces announce themselves on the world stage. We'll have to see how white wants to meet that. You can imagine like d6, e5, c6. Ooh, a wall. Interesting. So black decides to go full defensive here and delays their own attack. This actually might not be bad though, because in a couple of moves, black is gonna have a pretty strong threat here, and white's capstone isn't gonna be able to stop it. Now there are some funny ideas here, like, well, it's hard when there's a wall there. I was gonna say if white takes f4, then d6 right is attack. But I don't think you can actually stop the wall from just coming up. Ah yes, white reminds us we have a threat in the south. That's gotta be a good move. C2, yeah, B2, and what's black gonna do about it? It's actually very nice because in this strange way, the D3 and the F3 squares, they can do D3 minus and F3 minus, but they're both defended by random flats on D1 and F1. It's quite fortuitous. Black's got to be starting to go into panic mode here because they played too slowly in the north. Probably have to start walling. It's pretty complicated though. At some point you could try to throw the capstone onto d2, but you leave a white stone on d3, so it's not particularly good. Maybe if you play d3 minus first and then d1 plus and then throw your capstone. I think it works. Okay, SA2. Let's see white's attacking prowess here. So it's probably gonna look something like A1, B1. Ooh, wait, actually A1, B1. No, if B2 minus A2 minus, okay. Okay, so black's gonna walk the wall over instead. I think trying to play with a flat was maybe a little bit better, but okay, here you can some wall C1. And still survive. You can maybe do some sort of crazy piece throw also, but taking on B2 doesn't improve your position at all, and taking on C2 loses immediately to C1, so there's not much else to be done besides playing the wall. Now, it wouldn't be a Simmons stream if I didn't talk about the time situation, so Vogopolis still has 11 minutes, and Mazks has 630, so they're both doing pretty well. 630 is getting a little bit low, but he's playing. They're playing pretty similar amounts of time. Mazix has just had um, a couple of long thinks that Vogopolis hasn't, and this doesn't work because C1 completes the road. Yeah, I did. I have to pat myself on the back a little bit because I saw that I saw that that was the concern. Like, you want to just take on C2 and like just keep going going east, but unfortunately the formation just doesn't allow you to. So it was a good game. We had some um, strong play. I thought black was going to be ahead, and then thought white was going to be ahead, and then white kind of put together a defense right away. And I think black might have played a little too slowly at around move 16 or so. Okay, on to game number 2. We have adjacent corners this time, and E1. So this is kind of interesting. White is like charging at the single black stone. On the one hand, it's not the most logical direction to go. Oh, apparently that was unintentional. I was gonna say, it's actually not that bad of a move. In tech, especially in these couple of opening moves, a lot of things work. But okay, white actually meant to click E2. That makes a little more sense. The we used to call that no hats opening way back in the day, although I think that was only on fives. Um, so we're getting this classic racing position. So black is actually up winning the race because white has played an extra move, but white's threat is stronger. But this means white is going to have to respond to black, or they will lose in 2 moves, which would be somewhat unfortunate. Okay, a wall before capstone. Interesting. Actually, not necessarily bad, but kind of double-edged, playing walls before capstones. Because if you have a capstone in hand, you can always put it right next to a wall and just immediately threaten to crush it. So for tournament reasons, if white wins, we're going to go to Blitz tiebreaker. And if black wins, he wins the whole thing. Gets first pick of the prizes and eternal glory, if you will. So if you like Blitz, root for white. Sorry, Mazix. Okay, so yeah, as I said, black places the capstone immediately to pressure the wall. I wonder if black should have crushed on a5 immediately, because now it feels like the wall can kind of escape with its life by playing on a4. Although, actually crushing on a4 previously was maybe bad, because white has a capstone in hand. It's sort of an odd position. It's a pure edge crawl from black so far. So b4 is tack. The moves that stop it are b6, cb6, a5 minus, b4 plus, and b4 left. Of those, white has chosen the more sensible a5 minus. And now black cannot make attack threat in one move. So let's see if black like gives up, plays e5 or something, just tries to stop the white threat, or maybe even se5. Although again, the issue is that white has a capstone in hand. And black could also try to continue the attack. If you're gonna continue the attack, it's probably c3. Because if you play b6, white gets to play a capstone. Well, actually, I don't know. I was gonna say the capstone is better for white on c3 instead of b2, but actually it might not be the case. Sort of unclear. Well, we're gonna see one of these versions. So b6 is tack, but the a4 wall can come down. White chooses to get a hard cap instead. Now this is interesting because this really does have some offensive pressure. If you imagine white getting c3 and d3, then the hard cap is pressuring a3, so this is pretty good for east-west, but I'm not sure that this was necessary. Like, white already has an uncontested north-south threat on the other side of the board, so... Problem for black is there's not much to do here. Like, in terms of continuing your own threat. I would have bailed out a little while ago, I think. But there's not an easy bailout either, so we'll have to see. White's probably going to continue with c3. It appears to be their idea that they're actually going to stop black and build their own threat at the same time. So if you're Mazks, you're probably playing d3 here because you're terrified of what happens to you if white gets d3. Or again, you can always give up. Remember that, kids. You can always give up and play a wall on d3. The wall on d3 is actually quite... Oh no. So b5 left. So this has a purpose. It's threatening the a4 wall. The problem is that the a4 wall can just move down. And you actually can't give chase because... Oh, okay, never mind. Now black just crushes the wall. It's still not maybe that good though. But the other line was move the wall down, and if the capstone chases you, you can crush your own wall with the capstone and defend it. Let's see. So black or white plays this b5, which just completely unafraid of the wall getting crushed, which is maybe the right thing, but it feels a little scary to have your capstone get pulled away to a3. Black's trying to make it even stronger before they crush the wall. Makes sense, but these sorts of things are risky because suddenly your opponent can decide, you know what, I don't want you to crush that wall, then play the move that I mentioned. Actually, you can even play throw the wall down to a2, might be even stronger. Instead, white plays b5 minus. which I don't understand in the slightest. Luckily, white's position is still pretty good, even though they've wasted 2 moves by playing b5 and b5 minus. So here the crush comes. So at some moment, white's going to have to take on a3. However, it's not tack for white yet. You'd really prefer it to be tack, but yeah, you're kind of out of time. And unfortunately, if you're white, you've just given black some free moves, and now they have a weakness under b4 that can be captured. So if you just play the obvious move as black, leave 1 on a4 and take on b4, how's white actually going to respond to that? White can cover their own piece on b3, but that's really sad. And also doesn't even work because black just plays a3 in that case. And it's tack again. Yeah, so this is the position we were talking about. If you do nothing, you get cut off. You play 3b4 minus. And if white passes and 3b4 minus, might actually be Tinue, although I'm not sure. Calculating Tinue isn't my forte. Yeah, so white tries to bail out with some walls. That makes sense. However, I don't know if the walls even stop black. What happens if c6? Okay. So how do you defend this? You can play c4 plus, which is pretty sad, but does kind of get the job done. You can play b5 over, and then black plays b5, and you've accomplished nothing. The other move was also b3 down, but I didn't have time to discuss that. So c3 plus. c3 plus. So if you take all your pieces from b4 and take on c4, then you make a tack threat. However, in that case, because black gives up b4, the wall is actually able to come over to c5 and stop the threat. So it might actually be better to leave one black stone on b4 behind. Because in that case, the wall on b5 is kind of sad. You are still a move away from playing, from making attack threat, so white has a free move in hand. They can play a wall or something, but I don't think white wants to play a wall here. If white could do anything in the world, I don't think playing a wall on c3 is the happiest thing to do, since they were previously trying to make their own threat along that line. Black opts for c3, which okay. I was gonna say this maybe allows some crazy escape, like I thought maybe the c4 stack could come north. It looks kind of weird, but maybe it's okay. Instead, we've traded 2 flat placements and we're kind of back in the same position. But now, when black takes on c4, even if they leave a stone behind on b4, it's still tack. So I would say this exchange benefited black. Fans of Blitz are on the edge of their seat because this looks pretty crushing for black here. I guess if black takes and leaves 1 behind on b4, then b5 minus does stop the threat. So maybe this exchange wasn't good for black. Black plays this, which appears to be bad because if white just takes, and then you play 3 and white just takes back, then if you look at the difference between the two positions, oh no, white just lost instead. So the b4 stack can take on c4, yeah. As I said, it's a pretty tricky position to hold. You really just kind of have to look at all the favorable lines and make sure that nothing goes bad. So that was a good game from black, and with that, they have clinched the tournament. So congrats to Mazks for winning the tournament, and for that reason, they've qualified for the intermediate invitational. They have gotten the golden ticket, if you will. And for anyone who came out here, thanks for watching. Make sure you check the description. Check out Simon's YouTube and join the Discord where you can be a greater part of our community. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming out, even though I'm not sultry voice Simon. I hope I did the game justice in his stead. And thank you, everyone.